Why hello there, and welcome back to another episode of Trader Steve's journey across Gielinor to collect as many rare items as he can get his grubby little mitts on. Trader Steve is starting his journey in the Grand Exchange chunk, but for every new rare item he can add to his collection that's worth more than 1 mil, he can unlock a new adjacent chunk, with Trader Steve's ultimate goal, obtaining a quest cape. Trader Steve has come a long way now. From an aspiring merchant with only a handful of items to his name, we now have well over 150 unique expensive items, and our combat stats are finally high enough that I think we are somewhat raid ready. I'm going to put some ginormous quotation marks there, but I think we have the gear and stats to really start grinding out endgame raids. Now obviously, we are in no means going to be doing this efficiently. We're missing some really important pieces of gear as well, but I think we made it to a reasonable level. We got our first 99 in a combat skill, 99 ranged all through Saradomin, and thanks to that we were able to unlock both Piety and recently Rigor. So there are of course 3 raids in Old School, and we have already unlocked 2 of them. We've had the Theater of Blood unlocked for actually a really long time. And more recently we've unlocked the Tombs of Amascut. The only one we don't have right now is the Chambers of Xeric, but it's honestly not that far away. Thanks to a recent change to the Zaya minecart system, you can now use those right away. You don't have to unlock them. And because a minecart is a natural form of transportation, we can take it from this chunk right here. We can take it directly to the chunk that has chambers in it. Super convenient. So we're actually only 3 chunks away from unlocking all the raids in RuneScape. Oh my god, I can't believe I've been talked into this. So the first raid I'm going to be doing on this account in quite a while is actually going to be a Theater of Blood. The raid I have almost 0 experience with. I have a handful of KC on my main account, maybe like 3 or 4. So the Theater of Blood is kind of interesting for this account. It has some pros and cons, of course. The pros are that it is the most profitable raid, assuming you're doing like a normal run. It's only beaten out by 500 invocation TOA runs, which I'm not going to be doing, so this is probably the most profitable raid of the 3. The drawbacks is that it is one of the more punishing raids, the hardest to learn, and you do need a group of competent players to complete it, even more so for this account, which is not using optimal gear. So let's talk about the gear. Here it is. So we're using Blood Moon Armor, which isn't too bad, an Abyssal Tentacle, a Berserker Ring, Dragon Boots, and a Dragon Defender. We're going to be doing the range rolls, so we have pretty much just a blowpipe, and we're using our crystal armor because we have nothing better. We also have the dual macahoodles, which are sick and actually somewhat useful, and a trident, and we're also going to bring our Bando's Godsword and our Asmunten's Fangs. So although the gear is not ideal, the real issue is we're just going to be bad. The skill issue is a bigger detractor than the gear, but I'm excited to give it a try. So I haven't done a raid in a while, so just to reiterate how I'm going to be doing splits on this account. So as you might know, as soon as I get an item for the first time, it goes in the trader collection. No exceptions, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's going right in the collection, which means I can't sell that item to split people out. So the way it's going to work is I can only split items that I already own. So for Theater of Blood, I don't own any of the items, I don't think. So I won't be getting any splits until I get the item. So let's say I get a 1kc Avernic, for example. That's going right in the bank. But if I get another Avernic, I would be able to split it, give it to my teammates, and thus would be able to receive money from an Avernic. So pretty much it's free for all for any items I don't own. I don't know what I'm doing. So it's time to bring out the maracas. Now these things are really good because I'm already bringing the entire Blood Moon set anyway, and we might as well take advantage of the full set effect. Now for the Nihilicus room, for the role I'm doing, I want a weapon with a high attack speed. Often people use like a Swift Blade, Ham Joint, or something like that. But the dual Macahoodles, or whatever we want to call them, have a chance of attacking 1 tick quicker, so sometimes there'll be a 3-tick attack cycle, which is quite quick, which is very useful for this room in particular, because we're trying to kill things as quickly as possible, and they all have pretty low health anyway. Okay, so I'm definitely not comfortable with any parts of this raid, and Verzig the least. I think I've died every time on Xeric, at varying stages of the fight, to be fair. Because this is not exactly what we're supposed to do. Walking in a triangle is working for me because it actually just takes the perfect amount of ticks to do it. At least we're not getting bounced to Narnia. Not even close. So there we are, guys. We got our first Theater of Blood completion. Yes, we got turbo carried, but the reality is, even on my main account, I was getting carried anyway. It's a skill issue. It's gonna take a while to get used to this, but 1 KC down. I just don't really know what's going on. I did manage to do a couple raids without dying, but that was just pure brew chugging the entire time. So the Theater of Blood, that's going to be a long learning process, but it does have one drawback. You need a team to do it, or pretty much everyone needs a team to do it. So for soloing, if I'm going to do a raid, I'm pretty much stuck with the Tombs of Amascut, but I haven't done them in a long time, and we've gotten way stronger, which means our GP per hour should have increased dramatically. So it's time to do a couple baseline raids to see what kind of invocation level runs we can do, because it's been a long time since I've done one. Okay, so we just tried a 245 and it was reasonably smooth. We did it in 35 minutes, which isn't terrible. The things that mainly sped this up are we get the Bofa. We can use that on Wardens, which is so much quicker, and we now have Rigor and Piety, which is the main differences. Everything else gear-wise is pretty similar. First raid back, can we get anything? 3.2% chance, not likely. It's a white light, but we can get yellow gems still. That's also exciting. Nothing. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so we're gonna keep pushing the raid level up until we reach kind of our ceiling for now. Okay, this was a little sketchy. Oh my god, we got to the final row. We did a 280 in 37 minutes. Kind of slow, honestly, but we did make time. That's all that really matters, I suppose. So we almost did an expert. We're really close to being able to solo a 300. I think we could definitely do it. And nothing, but 500k basically. That's pretty good. Okay, we're gonna attempt our first 300. The only reservation I have is we need to do it in 40 minutes, which we were pretty close already. Well, apparently that was a perfect crocodile. Okay. The great thing about doing all these raids is we're going to get a lot of combat achievements, which means we might be able to get our hard combat achievements done sooner rather than later. Oh, it was going so well. This moved too early. Instantly dead. How did I do that so quickly? 35 minutes, 43 seconds. That's really good. And we finished our first 300 level raid, which means we have a purple rate of about 1 in 22, 1 in 23, something like that, which is pretty good for a solo rate. First 300 though, nothing. Pretty good basic loot though. Okay, that one we just barely finished in time. That's our 5th expert, and nothing. I just trolled that so hard. The nice thing about raiding is we can finally do some raids with people too. I've honestly been missing that. It's been kind of a solo game mode for so long. But finally we can do some group content. I mean, the likelihood of me getting an item in my name in particular, pretty low, but because I actually own quite a few of the TOA items already, I actually could split things out. I already own a Fang, I already own the Light Bearer, I already own the Ward, I already own, I think, the Missouri Mask, and yeah, so there's only a few I'm actually missing. Okay, so this raid I actually tried a different setup. We're doing Walk the Path, and we're not doing Insanity. Now I was constantly getting to the final row and I decided that maybe it would be better off if I just did Walk the Path, put my power budget into the rooms and less so into the Wardens to give myself a better chance at actually not planking at the end, because I was getting a little annoyed about that. So there's my first completion with Walk the Path. It is notably slower. I mean, probably 3 to 4 minutes slower, but I think it's gonna be less stressful overall if I can be more consistent in completing them, or at least if I'm gonna plank early, I think I'll be happier. Yeah, oh my god, rewarded, it's actually a purple. Alright, it's our first purple in a while, and we got it with the Walk the Path invos. Let's have a look. There's only a few items that are good nowadays, but there's a chance. Hey, that's actually really good. I will definitely take that. That's the third most valuable item? How much are these worth nowadays? 35 mil, okay, decent, decent, decent. So we won't be able to sell this one, but that is another item added to our collection. A pretty expensive one at that. So with those Missouri chaps, we're gonna be unlocking another chunk, and finally, we're gonna take our first step onto Xea. Xea is a massive continent, and until recently, I thought it was gonna be a huge pain to get around there. But thankfully, like I mentioned earlier, the minecart system has been updated. You can use it right away, and that's gonna make it so much easier to travel across Xea. Xea is massive and offers a ton of interesting unlocks, but by far the two most important ones have to be the Chambers of Xeric, which we can get pretty soon, and Thralls. Thralls are gonna be a long-term goal, and we're not getting them anytime soon, but Chambers, that is pretty reasonable. So from Port Sarim, we're gonna take the boat to the main Xea docks. This chunk is pretty devoid of anything. There is a few quest start locations here, so we are going to need it for quests anyway. First seagull killed on Xea. It's a beautiful thing. So that took a long time to get that chunk, and sure, it's a 35 mil chunk kind of, but hey, it's 35 mil we don't have to spend later, plus we get a really good pair of ranged legs, so I'm pretty happy about it. Well, we had to go for the back-to-back. Pretty decent time, 36 minutes. Not super likely, but the 1 in 20 it's happened? No. Okay, so I can definitely solo 300s now, so we're gonna try to push the raid level even further. I'm trying to 350 in a duo right now. Honestly, pretty good time, 32 minutes, that's super quick. No purple though. So whenever I get a minute, I am AFKing my combat stats up. It's not a huge deal at this point because a lot of the bossing we're doing is gonna train it up slowly anyway, but you know, every extra strength level does just make us stronger. That's gonna be 95 strength. I think that may have given us a max hit as well, so a pretty important level. Only 4 more to go. Okay, so this is my first chance of the split. We did like a 4-man though, so unless it's Missouri chaps in particular, our split's gonna be very low. Award. It's not the worst thing, but it's not the best either. That will be like a 1 mil split, but we will take it. Alright, crystal armor is broken again. So although each content's a bit different, roughly 1 hour of Volcano is giving me between 15 and 20 hours of use, so it's pretty easy to maintain. Plus, we can now switch over to mining experience, which means we'll just slowly train our mining up anyway, which is going to be helpful for TOA, chambers, and you know, non-PVM related things as well. So there we go, 91 charges, that'll be good for a while. Okay, there's another entire strength level, purely AFK at Nightmare Zone, not the most entertaining content. Oh my god, finally, I have done a 350 without dying. That actually took a long time. But there it is. Are we rewarded? No. But we are going to get our Missouri crafting kit, which is kind of a meme at this point because I don't even have my assembler. So for now, this is going to just stay in the bank, unused, until we can finish Dragon Slayer 2, which it's on the horizon. And I'll talk a little bit more about my midterm plans once we get Chambers finally unlocked. Okay, so I know I said I wouldn't come back to the Coliseum for a while, but more specifically, I meant I didn't want to do just wave 1 farming again. The Coliseum is actually pretty entertaining, offers the best in slot range cape, and is incredibly profitable to kill just for the basic loot. And now that we have piety, more strength levels, I think we might have a good shot at making it further into the waves, or maybe even killing Saul altogether, once we get more practice, of course. Okay, well that's actually the furthest I've made it so far, on my, I think, 2nd attempt back. So that's very promising. I also got a combat achievement for that as well. Okay, we made it all the way to wave 9, which, to be fair, wave 6 is harder than wave 7, 8, and 9. It's actually maybe one of the hardest waves in the entire Coliseum, but making it to wave 9 is still great. That's our new personal best. We get some new unlocks as well from the Coliseum. I think that will allow us to teleport here directly. That's pretty nice. We don't have to take our bird, although Renu, so cute. The convenience of a direct dueling ring teleport is kind of too convenient to pass up. And I think for the moment, we're going to run through the Coliseum, trying our hardest, trying to make it as far as possible, and hopefully along the way we can also accrue some money by being smart. Like, we'll take profit when it looks promising and, you know, our invocations are bad or we're low in supplies. We're going to try to push it as far as possible. So we are probably going to die and losing some of our loot, but in the end, I think we should be profiting still a pretty solid amount. Okay, this is a giant step for the account. I pushed my solo TOA invocation level from 300 to 305. If we do 1,000 raids, that's like one more purple, but not this time. Okay, we lost a decent amount of loot today, but we're taking this one, 900k. Gotta take profit sometime. So I wouldn't say our GP per hour rate to the Coliseum is very good, but we have been able to save up about 8 mil, and that's just enough for another item, the Anguish Ornament Kit. The cheapest items right now are about 7 mil, getting really expensive, but I really want to unlock chambers soon, and this will bring us only one chunk away. Okay, so another pretty random chunk. There are 2 quest locations, I believe, here, so this chunk's totally fine. We are going to need it for the questscape, and it has access to a Lovakenge minecart network. That's by far the biggest unlock. The minecart network really just unlocks all of Zaya, so it's a pretty important chunk for me. Okay, so one thing I learned the other day is that in the gear that I'm wearing for the Coliseum, the Osmund's Fang is actually better against everything, pretty much, that's not Sol Herited. So we're making 2 changes here. We're switching over to the Fang, and we're also going to be moving over to the northwestern pillar. Seems to be the favorable option now. The Coliseum is more figured out, and hopefully once we get comfortable with both these changes, we'll be able to make it further. We just need enough money for one more item. Well, okay, so this is our new personal best for sure, but we're totally screwed. I thought I had it, and then I took a manticore to the face. We are venomed. We have no cure. We have no prayer. We only have some bruise. That's not going to save us, so we might as well just heroic charge to our death here. But hey, even though we're not getting any loot, that is a new personal best for glory, 20k, and making it further, that's the important part. Okay, we're actually going to be switching our Dragon Boots out for Guardian Boots because we don't lose a max hit. Since we don't have Primordials, Dragon Boots and Guardian Boots are closer in relative power, but because we don't lose a max hit, we're fully boosted. These just offer prayer bonus and more defensive stats, and they don't look so dumb. That's honestly the highest point of the list. Okay, so I think this is finally going to be enough money. Coliseum loot has slowly been adding up. Probably at best we're making 2 mil an hour, so it's not quite as good as Saradomin or anything, but it will be once we stop sucking so much. Okay, so the next item we're gonna get is gonna be the Trailblazer Bulwark Ornament Kit for 7.1 mil. The cheapest item I could find. I had to scour our entire list for 15 minutes to even find this one, but for now that's all we need. So this is a huge chunk for us. We've unlocked the Chambers of Xeric. Now, while all the raids are reasonably profitable, Chambers offers one thing that is probably more useful than the other 2, and that is physically the items that it offers. Now, because I won't be able to sell the first copy of an item I receive, the item I get while raiding is kind of important. Like, for example, if I manage to get a Sanguinesti staff from the Theater of Blood, sure, that's worth a lot, and eventually that's going to save me a lot of money. But in the short term, the Sang staff's not going to really do much for me, and that's the same for just this year. But Chambers, not only is it very profitable, but also the items it offers are immediately useful. The Elder Maul would be amazing. The Twisted Bow would obviously be amazing. Dragon Claws would be amazing. We don't have a good spec weapon. Ancestral, a little bit less useful, but still would be an incredibly good drop and valuable. So I think by far, Chambers has the most useful items, and that's why I'm really excited to do it. Okay, we actually need to finally imbue our Salve Amulet, and thankfully we've saved up a ton of points just from doing Nightmare Zone, so we can immediately do that, and we'll have a ton of points left over as well. Now, one thing that's really nice about Chambers is the Bofa, that we can use it pretty much everywhere. Everything that we can reasonably use the Bofa against, we're going to do it. We're hardly going to use magic, except when we absolutely have to. Why am I so lucky at Chambers in particular? All the money I've ever made is from this raid for some reason, and that's such a good item. We literally got Dragon Claws on 1 KC, and it's in my name as well. That literally could not have gone much better. I think besides the mega rare items like the T-bow, the shadow, and the scythe, this might be the next most useful item. I can't think of another item. The Elder Maul would be kind of close, but I think this is like probably the best item I could have got. This is a huge upgrade over the DDS, and I can use Dragon Claws in every single raid, and it will increase my DPS a lot. Plus, I can use them elsewhere as well. That's so good. And it's a 100 mil item. That's also my biggest drop to date. So Dragon Claws actually just, I'm so happy with that. And of course, that is an item on our list, an expensive one at that, 100 mil. So I think finally with the Chambers of Xeric unlocked, we've kind of reached an interesting point in the account. I'm not lacking for moneymakers. I have some of the best ones unlocked in the entire game actually. Of the top 10 moneymakers on the wiki, I have 8 of them unlocked. But just because I can go there doesn't mean we can reach these really high hourly rates that are listed. And there's a couple reasons for that, but mainly it comes down to the gear I have. We'll be maxed to combat pretty soon, but our gear is really lacking. And of course for some of these we just need practice. But that begs another question. Where does our best unlocks come from? Is it questing to unlock more content or more quest items? Maybe. Or is it buying upgrades directly? Also maybe. I've honestly thought about this a lot and I've not come to a definitive answer. But regardless, whether we decide to focus on unlocking more of the map or unlocking more expensive gear, we are going to slowly be unlocking chunks and we need to decide where we're going to be going next. This is also a really difficult decision. Now I mentioned thralls at the beginning of the video, and thralls would be amazing. They'd probably be one of the biggest DPS increases we can get, but deep down in my heart I knew this would just be too big of an investment to do now, because Zaya has 40 plus chunks that would be required to finish a Kingdom Divided, which is required for thralls. This would just be so brutal because I have 0 parts of the map unlocked already. We'd be starting pretty much on a new continent from scratch. So we're gonna have to rain check that for now. Other options would be Barrow's Gloves. We are relatively close to Barrow's Gloves, and although that would only give us a bit more stats, it would allow us to finish some quests that we required anyway to finish other higher end quests like Dragon Slayer 2. And my final consideration was even trying to finish While Gothic Sleeps, and I thought that wouldn't actually be too big of an issue, except it requires Dream Mentor, and Dream Mentor requires Lunar Diplomacy, and that won't be too easy either. So with that all in mind, I think our next goal is going to just be Barrow's Gloves. So of the chunks that are required to finish Recipe for Disaster, none of them are that useful, so we're just going to unlock one that's going to be required for Family Crest. The Alcarid Mine, woo! Seems almost a shame for Dragon Claws to unlock this chunk, but I guess it doesn't really matter. Well, you gotta go for the back-to-back, of course. This would just be the most blessed account ever. Okay, considering I only have about a 1 in 40 chance of getting it in my name, that was to be expected. Now I have about 100 KC on my main account, and honestly, this raid isn't that much worse on Trader Steve. The main issue is once again just my magic DPS. It's so bad, and I can't believe people dealt with this trident pre-shadow. Oh my god. I mean, I can even be relatively close in points until we get to Olm, but then my points just evaporate slowly as my trident just does nothing, but it is what it is. There's not really going to be a solution for that for a long time, so we should just get used to it. Okay, there's one thing I could probably improve on, and that is my farming level. I'm just death touching every Buchu here, unfortunately. Probably the best way for me to speed up Chambers runs is actually just to get the quality of life things dealt with. 78 herb lore, higher farming level. I could shave off a minute or two just from that. I can't believe in 2024, why does the chest work like this, guys? Why can't it just not show you until you've opened it? No, it finally happened. So it's not my name, unfortunately, so there's literally no way that I get a split of this, but we finally saw our first purple in the Theater of Blood. You missed the memo, guys. That was supposed to be in my name, but then I could have had one unique from every raid in my name, but that's okay. The Theater of Blood is kind of just going to be like this for a while. I need to get personal uniques to get any splits, but once I do, like say I get an Avernic even, that would be great. Getting all the Avernic splits going forward. Now the earlier I can get some uniques from top, the better. With the more splits, the more money I can get on this account. But for now, we are still looking for our first unique. So we're going to be ending the episode off with 185 items collected out of 360. And I forgot to mention this, but we've passed a notable milestone. We have half of the items. We have just over 50% of all of the expensive items over 1 mil in this game. And the first half cost me about 1 billion GP. If only the second half would cost that much, but there's literally singular items that are worth more than that. So the GP grind has definitely begun, and I think we need to really plan out carefully where and what we want to be unlocking, because every step is so costly now. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.